pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. So we'll start with appeal number 3155, the applicant Villanova University, property located at 800 West Lancaster Avenue. Property is located within the comprehensive integrated college development of the planned industrial district. On the board's own motion, the record in this matter is being reopened to clarify the basis under section 280-115.4 for the board's March 21st, 2024 decision granting the applicant's requested relief.
Mr. Chairman, I think you may have misspoken. The appeal number for that one is 3174.
Oh, sorry.
Everything else was perfect.
Thank you. Sorry. Yes, appeal number 3174. Sorry.
Evening, Nick Cornelia, representing the applicant.
So we've opened the record in order to clarify the basis. The motion that was granted on March 21st offered a special exception in some reconsideration of the language in 280-115.4C, I believe. It speaks to a non-conforming use, and I think that's what the rub is whether or not the restaurant and coffee shop are considered conforming or non-conforming. So at a certain level, the special exception was granted, of course, on the motion, but the board may feel more comfortable reanalyzing it as a variance because every indication is that the coffee shop and restaurant are actually conforming under the ordinances that were granted for purposes of allowing that development. So, Mr. Conigli, if you would.
Yeah, I have no objection provided that we're just talking about what type of relief to be granted, because the board did grant the relief. There was testimony at the last hearing regarding the variance. It was requested in the alternative for a variance, and you may recall that the basis for that was a competition. And Ken had testified to, the owner of the manager of the restaurant had testified regarding the competition, how all the restaurants in Wayne and Radnor basically had this outdoor dining, and for him to be competitive in the market, that he also required it for the refectory as well.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I kind of agree. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but it strikes me that yeah, the wording in the revised ordinance from October, if it was a non-conforming, if you're a conforming use, you would have trouble getting you wouldn't be entitled to a special exception. So it kind of makes no sense, which is why I think the variance is
and all the conforming uses are entitled to it. So it's I think it's a little quirk.
It's a quirk in the ordinance, yeah. So, okay. So I am going to open it up to public comment since we've reopened the record and have addressed it. So are there any members of the public that would like to address this application? Okay, seeing none. I guess I'll open it up to the board then. Are there any board questions regarding what we're doing here? No? Okay. Okay, then I think maybe we'll take another motion then. Somebody who has a motion. Should I do it? I'll do it. Okay. I'll make a motion that we grant a variance under section 280-115.4C to permit the outdoor dining based on the application, the testimony as was presented on March 21st, 2024, as well as the argument that we heard tonight from counsel on behalf of the applicant. And whatever other language we normally include based on the exhibits, et cetera, that were presented. Is there a second?
And if I can, just to clarify the motion, Ms. Canillo, do you have any objection if it was simply subsection A and not C? Oh. C deals with the special exception. If the variance is for subsection A, yes, which was part of your notice last time, that would be that'll be the minimal relief necessary to grant the relief.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you, counsel. I have subsection C on the brain tonight. So, yeah, so we'll amend that then to reflect 115.4A to grant a variance. Is there a second? Second. Vote? John? 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 Oh, you weren't here. Yeah, okay, so you'll abstain. Bud?
And he
Oh,
was.
you weren't here either, you'll
Two
abstain.
abstentions.
I'm also in favor, so the relief is granted. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now to appeal number 3155. The applicant, Villanova University, property located at 800 East Lancaster Avenue, HSB Garage, request an extension of time for obtaining permits under Section 280-144 of the code for 6 months until October 3rd, 2024. Mr. Caniglia?
Yes, this was a request that was made on March the 11th for an extension for the HSB garage. And that extension expired. There was a previous 6-month extension granted, and that extension expired on April 3rd, 2024. And on April 3rd, 2024, I have a bunch of permits here from Radnor Township indicating that the permit has been granted. So I don't know if we need the extension, perhaps. Kevin, I mean, is there any issue on your end?
No, I think if the code requires a building permit to be issued and it was issued on the date that expired, and I believe you got the request in which this board considered to be the kind of the time stamping of the request. But I think that's moot now that the permit has been issued within the time frame of the initial extension.
You remember that it was March 11th, and we passed it at the March zoning hearing to this zoning hearing. So, again, as long as Kevin's okay with it, I don't think we need the extension.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay. Appeal number 3157, the applicant 411 West Wayne LLC, property located at 411 West Wayne Avenue, request an extension of time for obtaining permits under Section 280-144 of the code for 6 months until November 5th, 2024. Excuse me. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fred Cromhole here on behalf of the applicant in that matter. And as I had indicated in our letter of April 5th to you requesting this extension, this approval that you had granted back in September of last year is set to expire on May 5th. Since a building permit will not issue by that date, the building that was approved by your application is a commercial building with a residential component in it, and therefore required land development approval in order to construct the building, in order to obtain a permit. And our client has been in the process of obtaining that approval, has obtained design review board blessing for the plan, as well as Shade Tree Commission, and is scheduled, I believe, to be back before the Board of Commissioners in June, and hopefully will obtain approval from the board at that time, and then would be in a position to obtain a building permit. There is one glitch that I guess all new construction building may face, and that is getting the sewer approval. So it's conceivable that we will be back before you at a later date, hopefully not, that we will have either obtained the planning module approval or exemption within a time frame that would allow our client to get building. He's anxious to build as quickly as he can, but as you know, all of the approvals need to be obtained. So we're asking for that 6-month extension, and we are very hopeful that is all that we will need from you, and would appreciate your granting that extension.
Any questions? No? Okay, so without objection, then, the extension is granted.
Thank you.
All right. Appeal number 3175, I'm not going to read it into the record, but that appeal, that was a continuance requested, which was granted. So that'll be heard on the next available agenda. Appeal number 3176. The applicant Antimo, I hope I said that correctly, Forelli Jr., property located at 133 Sugartown Road and Zone C2 Commercial. Applicant seeks a special exception under Section 280-101A1 of the code to change a non-conforming use to another non-conforming use, or Section 280-51.L1 of the code. The prior uses included an auto repair shop, towing company, and storage of vehicles. The proposed use involves the detailing, rental, and sale of premium cars. Approximately 10 cars maximum would be stored on the premises at any one time. Applicants seek such other zoning relief required by this application, exhibits attached hereto, and the testimony presented to the zoning board. Good evening.
Evening, Nick Canoli, representing the applicant. Want to swear them in, Nora?
You'll both be testifying. Okay, I'll raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
And you state your name for the record
Antimo Forelli,
and spell
Antimo.
Ahmad Tamimi, Ahmad, Tamimi, Tamimi.
This is regarding a property behind the Wawa in Stratford. So by La Maison, Sugartown Road, western end of the township, almost the exact western end of the township, probably a block away from East Town or Tredyffrin Township. It is very hidden, as you'll see by the exhibits and testimony. There's currently 2 other uses there. What is being proposed here is changing one non-conforming use, which was a towing company and car storage facility, to the current non-conforming use being requested in this application. And for first witness, I'll call Andy.
Yeah.
Andy, are you? Andy, are you the owner of the property, 133 Sugartown Road, which is the subject matter of this application?
Yes.
And how long have you owned it?
I guess in the 1990s.
And how long has your family owned it?
My grandfather bought it. It was either it was in the 50s or early 60s.
All right, and actually you grew up on the road in front of it?
On Morris
Morris
Road.
Road, right. Very good road, by the way.
Yeah.
We both grew up there, so. Yeah, right. Had to throw that in there. I'm going to show you what's been marked as A2, and that's the actual deed to the property.
Yes.
And I'm going to show you a couple photos that we've marked as exhibits of the site describing where the property is located. You heard what I have stated. I'm first going to show you what's been marked as A3.
Yes, that's it.
And that's an aerial photograph, and the red dot is the property.
Yes.
There's the property here, correct?
Yes.
And located in front of the property, here's Morris Road, here's Old Sugartown, here's Sugartown that runs by the Acme and
Braxton's.
La Maison and those places. So directly in front of it, I guess that would be to the south, is the Wawa store.
Yes.
Directly behind it are the commercial properties on Lancaster Avenue.
Yes.
And actually, next to it is a house owned by you.
Yes.
Is that accurate? And then the bank property.
Correct.
Across Old Sugartown Road. And this is your property here, showing it here. And to the east would be the Bank of America property. Is that
Correct.
accurate? So it's surrounded by commercial uses,
Correct.
correct? And currently you have 3 units located on the property. Is that accurate?
Yes.
The one unit here that we'll see better pictures of, we have a unit to the far west, a unit in the middle, and a unit to the east.
Correct.
Is it visible at all, this property from the street?
No.
Show you A4, and is this representation from Old Sugartown looking up to the property?
Yes.
And that's your driveway into the property?
Yes.
And A5 This is the view from Old Sugartown and Morris Road, the intersection,
Yes,
with the Wawa located there. And you're behind it, correct?
correct.
And actually, the bike trail is
Yes,
between you and the
the
Wawa.
P&W, yes,
The old P&W,
The old
but
P&W.
now the bike trail.
yes,
Okay. A6, is this a view from Lancaster and Old Sugartown?
yes,
And again, you can't see the property. And actually, I believe that house, that white house, that's your house there?
yes,
Now, I'm going to show you what's been marked as A7, and this is kind of a site plan that we have of the property. And just the outline of the property. As I said, here's the single-family home owned by you, correct?
correct,
Then we have the property outline. Here's Old Sugartown. We're coming down here, and this area here that I just outlined with the pointer.
Correct.
That's the property that we're talking about.
yes,
And here is Unit A.
Correct.
Is that the premises that we're talking about occupying?
yes.
And then Unit B, and what currently is in Unit B?
It's a basketball facility.
Larry Hughes' basketball facility?
Yes.
May recall Larry was a basketball player for the Sixers, actually, a high draft pick for the Sixers at one point. Yeah, right. That's right, it was. I think he was like the third or fourth pick, wasn't he? He was a pretty high pick. And then next to that, what is located in Unit?
That's a doggy daycare,
That's, the doggy daycare
Unit
center.
C.
Going to show you what has been marked as A8, and this is the gate looking up at the property.
Correct,
And then A9 shows the buildings that we're referencing, and that one-level building there with the garage doors, that's where the new use would be located.
yes,
And then you see the middle building, that's the basketball
Ball.
academy, and the far right is the doggy daycare.
correct.
All right, and how many square feet? Is it approximately 900 square feet? Was gonna be
Nine
occupied?
something, yeah, including the bathroom and the electrical room.
Okay, and A10, again, that's just basically the same as A9. Just my mistake, and I put two the same. And A11, again, that shows the property that would be occupied
Yes.
and the space next to it, adjacent to it.
Correct.
All right. What is, prior to this use, what was the use of the property?
Prior to, right now.
Right, prior to right
It
now?
was a towing company yard.
Okay, and what did he do there? Did he do anything beside towing? He store vehicles?
Yeah, the whole lot was full of cars.
All right,
And
And,
he did some repairs there,
okay, and how long was he there for?
10 years.
And when did he vacate?
Out of everything, January of this year.
Okay. I'm going to show you a couple photographs. A12, is this his use as he was using the property, showing some of the storage of the vehicles?
Yes,
And he was using that area that's going to be occupied by Mr. Tamimi?
yes,
And A13, again,
same thing,
same thing, showing his use?
correct.
And did he also store his towing trucks there and his other vehicles as well?
Yes,
A14, same?
same thing,
A15, in addition to basically towed vehicles, he also had wrecks there, is that right?
correct,
And that shows the burned-out
correct.
vehicle in A15. And A16, again, these are some of the other vehicles that he was storing there.
Correct.
Is there any addition being required by the tenant for the use of this building?
No,
And actually, you have since the filing of this application, a lease has been signed, correct?
Correct.
All right, so prior to the application, you made the application because there was no lease signed, but since the signing, since the introduction of the application to the township, the lease has actually been signed. with
Yes.
Mr. Tamimi. Thanks, that's all I have for this witness.
Any board questions?
Yeah, just sit down, I'll take any questions for you.
No? Okay.
The storage of automobiles in the future will only be those associated with this new business?
yes. For in that area. I mean, the other two areas have their own parking.
Right.
But they don't store vehicles
No.
either, they're, yeah.
That's
They
why-
have customers, yeah.
And it might be a question more so for Mr. Tamimi, but the application speaks to about 10 vehicles at a time. How does that situate on the lot and, in
There's
terms of
probably enough.
crowding and such?
There's probably enough parking there for 16 to 18 vehicles, because he would get the first 4 parking spaces along the trail, then parking in front of his unit, plus all the parking to the west. It's both stone and paving.
And if I recall correctly, the lease limits his storage to 10 vehicles.
10
doesn't it?
vehicles.
Yeah.
I don't want another episode like I had before.
And it looks like there's some garage bays. Does that mean mechanic work or automobile work will be done on the vehicles as well, or?
Mr.
What's
Tamimi
in-
can probably.
yeah,
explain
that's-
better.
that's
He's going to go through what his use is.
Okay.
And Kent, you've been sworn in, but can you state your name again, please?
Ahmed Tamimi,
Where do you live?
308 North Fairfield Road in Devon, PA.
So how far are you from this site?
Around less than 2 miles, a mile and a half.
Okay. And are you the proprietor of Tamimi Detailing LLC?
Yes, I am.
And have you entered into a lease agreement with Andy, who just testified, regarding a portion of the property at 133 Sugartown Road?
Yes,
Are you the sole member of the LLC?
Yes.
Tamimi? And the lease is contingent upon obtaining zoning approval here this evening?
yes.
How long you been in business?
Since 2018.
Now, one of the uses that's being proposed here is detailing of cars.
Correct.
How many vehicles would you have at any one time for detailing purposes?
2 cars.
And how many employees will you have?
So far, I'm the only one hiring another one.
Okay. And what type of vehicles are we talking about? Both for the detailing, as we stated before, too, for kind of the rental sale of the vehicles?
Premium cars.
When you say premium, what do you mean by premium?
Brands like Mercedes, Porsches, in this category.
And are they also the type of cars you would be detailing?
Yes, absolutely.
And tell us a little bit about the detailing business, how that works. It's not a car wash, right?
No, it's not, no.
How do you wash the cars?
They're with pressure washer, electric pressure washers, with polishers that details the paint work and doing protective coating on the paint, so it can last longer and it pops up the shine on the car.
And basically you're using hoses.
Yes,
Do you also do interior work when you're detailing?
I do, yes.
All right. As we mentioned, and 2 vehicles at once is what you would think you would be doing?
Correct.
How many vehicles a day do you think? Well, right now, I mean, you don't know, but,
We cannot exceed more than 5 a day.
okay.
Yeah.
Are there any repairs to the vehicles being done?
No, no repairs.
Do you use any hazardous materials?
No,
I noticed you said electric washers, power washers.
correct.
Is there any noise situation?
No, matter of fact, the electric is lower noise than the gas.
And what type of equipment do you use to both wash and rinse the vehicles?
The pressure washer and foam cannon, which is the shampoo on the car.
Right.
And then the pressure washer, and then after that, we get into polisher.
Any impact on traffic on the site?
2 at a car, two cars.
2 cars?
Yeah.
Okay. Any emission of dust or smoke?
No, we're anti-smoke and anti-dust.
Okay.
Detailing.
That's right, you can't.
Yeah.
Any fire hazards?
No,
What do you think the hours of the operation would be for the detailing?
9 to 6.
Now,
9 to 6. 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Now, you also have another business associated with Tamimi Detailing.
Correct.
And what type of business is that? Can you explain to the board?
Yeah, it's a long-term rentals as well as lease and car sale.
So when you say long-term rentals, how long a period of time are we talking?
The long-term rentals are weekly subscriptions. That gets renewed on a weekly basis between 72 weeks to 130 weeks.
Right, and normally it's that period of time.
Correct.
Because the real business model is for kind of a lease purchase that you would call it in real estate.
Correct.
is that
Rent
right?
to own.
Yeah, so how can you, or rental purchase, so can you explain to the board how that works?
Yeah, so someone start renting a car from us, they purchase a subscription. The subscription gives them an opportunity to rent a car in a rent-to-own basis between 72 weeks all the way to 130 weeks. By the end of the 132 weeks or 72 weeks, depends on the car, they get to own the car right out.
And what type of vehicles are you,
Premium cars only.
okay, again, like we just, the
Correct.
BMWs, German-type cars?
Correct.
And how many vehicles at any one time would you have on site here?
10 at a time.
Do the customers actually come,
10.
do the customers actually come on site?
No, it's entirely online based.
Right, do they come on site, I guess they come on site to pick up the vehicle,
That's correct.
right? But that's about the only time they would come on site?
Correct. The entire transaction happens online. They just come and pick up the car and leave. And drop it off.
And again, do you do any repairs to vehicles?
No, I
or
do not.
anything of that nature? Okay. And again, your hours of operation for this use?
Still the same, 9 to 6.
That's all I have.
Questions from the board?
I have a couple questions. Sir, where, you're conducting business at another location now, and you'll be moving to this location?
Correct. Correct, yes.
And where is your current location?
So right now I'm operating from home. The cars are parked in different parking spots around the city.
Okay. And you indicated that this is all online based, so
Correct.
so customers won't come and kick the tires or look for a test drive or anything like that? It's just,
No, no. They will rent the car once they ride, and if they have any complaints or anything like that, they're more than welcome to return it and get a full refund.
okay. That was it for me, thanks.
Anyone else? Nope. Okay.
Thank you. That's all I really have outside of requesting exhibits be made part of the record. As the board's aware, we're requesting a special exception to change from one non-conforming use to another non-conforming use. We've covered the standards during the testimony regarding detrimental, whether it's more detrimental than the prior use, and certainly it is not. And so we would request a special exception for the change from one non-conforming use to another non-conforming use.
Thank you. The exhibits will be part of the record. Yeah, of course.
I'm sorry. So this is a permitted use in C2?
It is, Kevin and I kind of spoke about this, and it's kind of hard to figure out whether it's permitted or not. We thought that perhaps it's a special exception under C2. And that's kind of why I asked in the alternative for a special exception, because of the detailing end of it, I believe, more so than the retail end, because the retail end would really be permitted. But the C2, I believe, addresses rental cars or a used car lot. And it's really not a used car lot, but again, I asked
Are
for-
these
yeah,
new or pre-owned vehicles?
Pre-owned.
Okay. So they are used cars?
Definition of used cars, I guess. Yeah, I mean, there are cars that have been used previously. I don't mean to be argumentative.
We're creating
but our
value
code
here.
It doesn't say what's a used car, what isn't a used car.
Okay.
But I believe under the C2, and actually Kevin corrected me because I think I cited the wrong section when I initially filed the application. But under the C2, the special exception is permitted. 51L. And then again, it's just, instead of getting in this whole argument over what is a used car, what isn't a used car, I just felt that maybe changing from one non-conforming use to another non-conforming use may be the easier way to go. But, yeah. But whatever the board desires, we're okay with.
Kevin, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
I thought of it as a used car lot. You're going to potential sales of cars that are not directly from the manufacturer, so I consider that a used car lot, and that is specifically not included as part of an automobile sales agency in the C2. So that's why I deemed it to be a non-conforming use. Similar to the rental aspect of it, that's not an allowed use within the C2 nor the detailing. So all signs for me pointed to a non-conforming use. There was another example of, I believe, the Enterprise rental agency in town, similar situation where it was deemed to be non-conforming use. So kind of looked all of that and some history in the township and said, you need a special exception to change from one non-conforming use to another.
So actually, not really, somewhat related, but more procedural. So in what I read, and I was confused by it, but now I understand it. The reference in what was read into the record is under 280-101AL1, which I believe is actually referring to 280-51L1A.
Right, the 51L1, yeah, L1, and that's the one that deals with a special exception for a automobile sales agency.
Right.
And then 101A1 deals with changing from one non-conforming use to another non-conforming use.
Correct. Okay. So is that typo then just in the agenda as it's in front of me, or was that typo?
Well, the typo may have been in the application, and I had caught that and asked Nick to clarify that, so we advertised it. The agenda, I believe, is accurate, and it's 28101A1, 280.
Yeah, the agenda has the right section. It was corrected. Yeah,
Oh.
that's okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm reading from the application and not,
That's right, yeah, Kevin corrected me on the application, it was advertised.
perfect. Yep,
properly.
okay, great, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to have a procedural misstep. Okay. All right, so exhibits are accepted into the record. Any other board questions before I open it up to public comment? No? All right. Is there any public comment on the application? Okay, seeing none. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the applicant be provided the requested relief under Section 280-101A1 of the zoning code to change a non-conforming use to another non-conforming use, consistent with the testimony and application presented here this evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any board discussion? Sounds like it, yes. Okay, we'll take a vote then. Zach, I'll start with you again. John? John, this is easy, all the Johns. John?
Aye.
Bud? Yes. I'm also in favor.
Thank
Good luck
you.
with the project.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Six of us.
Yeah.
Zach has not voted.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay, sorry.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, you're full now.
All right, Zach, I'm going to pass you over on the next round. All right. Okay. Appeal number 3177, the applicant Alessandro's Restaurant LLC, doing business as Alessandro's Wood-Fired Italian Bar, property located at 133 North Wayne Avenue, Zone WBOD, Wayne Business Overlay District. Applicant is requesting relief from Section 280-53.12.B5 and 280-115.4.A of the code regarding the number of off-street parking spaces required for outdoor dining and location of the proposed outdoor dining area. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. John Weckerly, Boxwood Architects. I do. It's John, John, Weckerly, Weckerly. Thank you. Appreciate you seeing us this evening. I have with me Alessandro Fiorello, who is the owner-operator of the restaurant, in case there's questions for him. As you've outlined, we're here to request relief for two items connected to the zoning code, the first of which came to light to us as we have been involved since last summer, helping Alessandro introduce additional dining and bar space on the second floor of the restaurant. Near the completion of that project, he asked us to assist him in the application to renew his license for outdoor dining, which had expired, I believe, in November of last year. So we created the zoning plan in front of you, outlining the proposed tables and chairs, which is derived from our calculation of the code, showing a total of 116 interior seats multiplied at 25%, totaling a proposed application for 29 outdoor chairs along with associated tables. By way of that request, the code requires that there would be 5 proposed parking spaces that, due to the field site conditions, are not achievable based on the building being full lot coverage minus the setback in the front, which incorporates 3 off-street parking spaces and 2 employee parking spaces. The 3 in the front, I'm sorry, are metered parking spaces for the public. There are 2 employee parking spaces in the rear of the property. And then the second relief request is that the existing condition on the property is such that on the side of the property, there's an existing Amtrak island or outcropping that was created by way of the parking that was introduced connected to the train station, which Mr. Fiorello has resolved a lease with Amtrak to occupy that space for additional outdoor dining. As you can see in our plan, the 29 total, you can see there are 8 proposed in the front of the building, 2 4-tops, and then 21 on the side, 2 4-tops, a 3-top, and 5 2-tops in the trapezoid space.
Okay. We should probably identify some of these exhibits, just so that the record is clear. So, let me walk through that a second. Make your application A1. It looks like there's also a license agreement attached to the application. We can make that A2.
I apologize, I didn't do that initially. As I said, we're architects, so.
Okay, and then we have a letter from Keith Martin. That's not, I'm sorry.
It's the property owner
Okay, property.
authorizing
Thank you.
approval.
All right. A3. Keith Martin's letter. Well, why don't we make the whole packet A3? It looks like it's his letter, a deed, and a lease. Okay, and then the plan you have open in front of you, we'll make that A4.
Part of that packet A3, I believe, also would include the lease with Amtrak for the tenant space on the side.
Okay.
There's the lease for the tenant lease for the restaurant, and then the lease for the outdoor space as well are both included in the packet we submitted.
And is that different than the license agreement? Well, if it's duplication, that's fine, but just to clarify what we've got in front of us.
Right, I believe the lease agreement is the tenant space and the license agreement is the Amtrak
The Amtrak,
agreement.
I think that's what it is.
Apologies again.
Yeah, okay. Are you good with it? Okay. All right. So you went fast through the number of seats. Would you mind backing up and
Of course.
maybe a little slower on the numbers? What's,
Of course.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the total number of indoor dining seats is 116. The formula for deriving the allowable outdoor dining seats is taking the total indoor seats, multiplying that times 25%. So you can see here on this seating calculation, we've taken 116, multiplied that by 25%, and are proposing 29 seats for the outdoor dining, which is significantly less than the previous license, which was, my understanding is, was derived as part of the pandemic allowable number of seats. I believe Alex corrected, 50, plus or minus 50 seats prior to this application. So we're reducing that to a proposed 29.
Does the 116 seats include the additional seating that you're doing on the second floor now?
It does, yes. It's a total. Currently, how we derive 116 is that there are 59 seats on the first floor and 47 proposed on this, or on the second floor, not proposed. They're there.
Okay. And then under 115.4A, there's a number of standards to be met. Would you mind, could you address some of those for the board? I can run you through them unless you have it in front of you.
I don't have it in front of me now.
Okay, so will the outdoor dining areas comply with all applicable health, building, accessibility, fire, and plumbing codes?
Yes.
Will the outdoor dining area interfere with any means of ingress or egress?
No.
To the adjacent building? How does I'm familiar with it, but I haven't thought about what that little area consists of. How does that not interfere then with pedestrian traffic?
So you can see here on our plan, we are out, this yellow area that is represented is the required 4-foot clear passageway that presents itself for pedestrians, and that passageway represents itself as contiguous from one end of the lot to the other.
Is there any intention for barriers to be placed?
No. Yes, sir.
What type? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bud.
No, I see 2 rear parking spaces on the plan, and when I look at the picture of the rear, it doesn't look like parking shown. The rear picture.
The photo is taken at the parking space itself, so that I'm standing kind of in where the parking, where the car would be parked.
Do you know what type of furniture?
We did present the furniture to the design review board at the last meeting. When that was approved, I do have copies of all of that stuff if you'd like me to show it to you guys now.
As long as you represent that it's going to meet the standards required by the ordinance.
It does. We did present it to the design review board, and they approved it at the last meeting. It is the furniture that was being used last season, so it has been approved previously as well.
And what are the intended dining hours?
Outdoor. You have to.
5 to 10 o'clock.
Here, you should. Yeah.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? State your full name and spell it, please.
Alessandro, Alessandro, last name Fiorello, Fiorello.
So what were the intended dining hours?
5 to 10 o'clock.
And is there any intention for exterior heating to be used?
No.
Do you intend to provide outdoor trash receptacles?
Yes.
Another comment at the design review board that wasn't included in our application there was to introduce umbrellas, which we did not have included, but agreed to at the design review board meeting. So there will be umbrellas that match the awning, that is the sign awning that's currently on the facade.
All right, and so the other relief then is regarding the parking. Can you speak to that for us?
Sure. So as I said earlier, the building, the lot is represented from the curb line to the rear of the 2 parking spaces at the back of the property. There are 3 existing metered parking spaces in the front of the building and the 2 employee parking spaces at the rear. However, beyond that, the building is full lot coverage, and therefore we are not able to introduce additional off parking for the lot, and therefore requesting relief.
Okay. Do you know what the required number of parking spaces would be under the code?
Sure. So based on the total, we would be required to have 5 parking spaces. Our read was that 1 to 12 spaces would be no parking spaces. Between 13 and 24 is 1 space per 4 seats, which would amount to 3 spaces. And then between 25 and 50, it's 1 additional per 3, which would add an additional 2 for a total of 5.
Okay. And Bud asked the question, but I was looking at something else. The total number of, I think it was 116 seats, that includes what's happening on the second floor?
That's the combined interior dining.
Got it. Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else for us?
No, sir.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yep.
I'm sorry, this one's going to be a little technical. The license agreement that you've provided is, I believe, to another party, not the applicant. This is the license agreement that was attached to the application. I believe we've marked it for the record A2. Between Amtrak and this is Matsuria LLC.
That was the old corporation. We just updated it. We changed it. We had a change of investor.
So is there an assignment of the lease from the old entity to the new entity?
There is.
And where is that?
I have to pull it up in my records. I'm sorry. I did not bring that with me.
I mean, it's just like having the lease, the other lease.
And actually, now that I'm looking at it, the version that's part of the record is not signed by the National Railroad Passenger Corp. Do you know if we have an executed version?
And they would presumably also need to sign the assignment.
I'm sorry, John.
I'm sorry, they would also presumably have to sign the assignment of the license from the old tenant to the new tenant.
It shouldn't be an issue to get that done.
Well, it needed to be done and presented here.
Okay. Okay.
You've not provided evidence that as to the space that we're talking about for the outdoor dining, you are the legal tenant of that. That's the issue.
Okay.
Yeah. No, John's right. So,
Continue.
well, yeah, we're probably, I can't tell you what to do, but we don't have the proper evidence of authority. So even if the board was inclined to grant the relief tonight, we wouldn't be able to because you don't have the evidence of authority. So, do you want to, I'll just ask it, do you want to continue it to next month? And
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. On a continuance, Gus, I don't need to worry about the waiver of the 45 days?
The record's open.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, let's get that proper authority paperwork, and then it's just crossing Ts and dotting Is. And then we can finish up where we left off. Okay?
Understood.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you so much.
Let me make an observation. I take the train from this train station just about every single day, and I walked across in this hash-marked area here to go from the train station to get a cup of coffee, and you have a fence here. I noticed this. It's marked there, and there's a gap. I'm just pointing this out to you for your own benefit. There's a gap right there, and then there's some lights that you have strung around, correct?
Yes, that was an existing fence
Well, there's
when
a
I came.
black wire that's hanging down in that open space.
Black
When
wire.
somebody walks across, this hash mark sort of leads them into that area unless they want to jump over the little fence. So my recommendation is get that black wire out of there before you have a problem.
No problem.
You can't see the thing.
No problem at all.
Or extend the fence all the way around there.
No problem at all.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you on the next agenda that's available. Okay. Appeal number 3178. The applicant Giant Company, formerly known as Giant Food Stores, property located at 550 East Lancaster Avenue and zoned PB planned business. The applicant seeks a variance from or to exceed 1, Section 280-123B of the code to permit a second wall sign with an area of 42 square feet, which combines with the existing wall sign exceeds 60 square feet. 2, Section 280-125D of the code to permit an illuminated wall sign. 3, Section 280-123C and 280-122C3 to the extent that the structure of the proposed sign will be affixed to is considered an awning to allow for the sign to identify, quote, beer and wine, end quote, sales, exceed the requirements for lettering height, and for the combined overall signage to exceed 60 square feet. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Natalie Young for the applicant. I don't have it on. Young, Y-O-U-N-G.
Oh, is that the limited power of attorney?
Oh, yeah. So, right, there was a power of attorney that was submitted. That's in the...
I have copies here as well. That I
Okay,
can-
but Kevin, that made it into the file?
I am not sure. We try to print those and put them in there, so.
Okay. If you have a
Take two
copy...
I have a
copies.
copy with
Yeah, let's throw it in the folder.
What are we going to mark that as? Let's see, what do we got here? There's nothing to mark.
Let's just mark it A1. We'll start at the top. Okay, so, yeah, so we'll mark the POA as A1 then.
And this power of attorney is for the gentleman, Matt Cliff, who's with me tonight, who I'd asked to have sworn in. But also, there's a different gentleman, Doug Tobin, who was unable to come due to a family emergency. His name's Doug Tobin. He was unable to come due to a family emergency. But Mr. Cliff is here. Yes, please.
Is that microphone on the table still? I've lost track of it.
Here it is.
Yeah, if you could give that to Mr. Clift.
All right, good evening. So we are here, I'm going to give a little bit of background as there were kind of competing provisions that were part of our application. And I did speak earlier with Kevin with regard to what we believe the area where the sign would be posted would be called. So we are seeking, just to give a little bit of background, this application is with regard to the Giant Food Store located in the shopping center at 550 East Lancaster Avenue in the rear of the St. David's Square Shopping Center. It is zoned a PB Planned Business District. And the building that's subject to the application has been used as a grocery store for several decades. I believe it was a Gennardi's prior to being a Giant as of the 1990s. Sorry, can you hear me? It seems to be cutting in and out.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe you're too close.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here, I'll try this one. This might be a little better. So presently, there is a giant sign over the doorway. That is not the sign we are here for. Obviously, it's a proposed sign that would be located over a second doorway. And so we are seeking to affix the words beer and wine to the second location. And as such, we are seeking a variance from 280-123B of the code to permit a second wall sign. This application was before the Design Review Board in July 12th, I believe, 2023, at which time they did not hear the application with regard to the beer and wine sign because they said that we needed a variance first for the second wall sign. However, and again, with my discussion with Kevin, we believe that the location is actually an awning as opposed to part of the wall, which I'll show in a little bit. So in that regard, I also believe that we need a variance from section, sorry, I'm trying to read my own notes. Okay, I believe it's 280-122C3. Which you get there from 280-123C, which directs you to 122C3. And so I do not believe that we currently are seeking a variance with regard to the illumination, as that would be something that would be decided either by permit if it's considered a wall sign or by the Design Review Board if it's considered an awning sign. So with that, I'd like to ask my witness some questions and start to take a look at some of our exhibits. So you have in the application packet attached as Exhibit A was a lease, and I'd like to just start with that. Can we call that A2 and kind of go from there through the packet? All right.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I guess B would be A3.
Application's 2, right, lease will be 3.
Oh, okay, the application would be 2, the Exhibit A would be 3, Exhibit B would be 4, Exhibit C would be 5, okay. And Exhibit D, there too would be 6. I do have, if it's possible, I have additional photos, which I've marked, I guess would be 7, 8, and 9. Can I bring those up?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cliff, have you heard the statements that I have made, and do you agree with those statements?
Yes.
Would you adopt those statements as part of your testimony?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to show you what is marked as Exhibit C to our application, so I believe would be A5 in this instance. It is, can you tell me, do you recognize this document?
I do.
Okay. Can you tell me what this is?
This is a typical brand book that Blair draws up for any sort of sign project that they have. I'm a subcontractor for Blair. I do a lot of the Giants, and we did the initial installation here as well. in the application for Giant. And the brand book is typical for what they present. It gives an overview of the sign project, the aerial site plan, and the signage that they're proposing to be installed.
And when you referenced the initial application, you were referring to the Giant sign, which is not on the at issue tonight. Okay. And when you said you're a subcontractor for Blair, can you just tell me a little bit what that means?
So Blair's a company out in Altoona, and they have national accounts who then need local and regional partners, and I've been a partner with Blair for give or take 10 years. So they sub me the contract to receive their signage, permit it, and install it once approved.
And so have you reviewed the brand book that's presented as Exhibit A5?
I have.
Okay. We can turn to...
So the existing sign is how many square feet?
It's a great question.
Well, I guess it's a little complicated because of, is there any way you could maybe lay it out before we get, I don't want, it's your application, but I'd like to hear the numbers as terms of what it is, the relief that's needed.
Yes. Do you know the existing, roughly the existing square footage of the sign as the proposed, would you agree that the proposed sign is roughly 42 square feet?
I would agree that the proposed is 42 square, and I would, without taking a look at the...
Take the microphone off, that's it, hold up.
Without taking a look at the drawings, I'd be give or take around 50 square for the Giant main letter set that's over the front facade.
So again, let me just make sure I'm understanding then. So you're seeking a variance for a second wall sign as well as a variance for exceeding the total maximum size of the sign, correct? Or of the combined signs?
Correct. To the extent that it's considered a wall sign, I actually believe that, so when I spoke with Kevin before, we were kind of in agreement that it's likely an awning sign. So the code, at least my reading of the code, doesn't specifically say how many signs are permitted with regard to there being a wall sign and an awning sign. The wall sign says for planned business, permitted one wall sign. So I believe that we need a variance with regard to both. However, yes, for the provision of the code as to wall sign, yes, we are seeking to have a second sign, and we are seeking to exceed the 60 square feet for total signs.
Okay. And if it's determined to be a awning sign, how does that impact the request?
So for an awning sign, the awning sign requires that the naming of this, or that the sign be an identification, so Giant or the address or the phone number. We are seeking to identify the entranceway, which states beer and wine. So to the extent that that differs in the term identification, we're seeking a variance there. And then the awning sign requirement requires that the letters be 8 inches. These letters are an exceedance of 8 inches. In exceedance of the 8 inches.
The main letter set that was approved and installed last year was 33.2.
For the Giant sign, that's the previous sign.
Okay, sorry.
Does that clarify the provisions?
Is the illumination part of this as well, or no?
No, so at this point, at the time when I filed the application, I had not heard the minutes from the Design and Review Board, so I included the illumination to the extent that that was considered, but that was not considered by them. So as far as I understand it, we will still be going to the Design Review Board, assuming that we are allowed to have a second sign.
Okay, but do you need relief for the illumination?
No, I don't believe so. It said that the illumination, if it's considered an awning sign, I have the code provision here, but it pursuant to, and bear with me, 1 second. All right, pursuant to Section 280-123C, which refers to awning signs, illumination on an awning sign would be approved by the design review board to the extent that it's consistent with 280-125D of the code, which I believe that we are consistent.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Oh, no problem.
I wanted to make sure I knew what I was listening for.
Right, right, I understand. Okay. And so, I believe in the packet of exhibits, it is marked as Exhibit C, which I believe is A5. This is page 3 that we're showing here. Can you explain, Mr. Cliff, where the sign would be located and maybe point out where?
It'd be, Giant is in the rear of the facility, and it'd be to the left of the main elevation signage.
So, right here, would it be correct to say that this would be the location of the proposed sign?
I show it over here.
Okay, I believe, would it be correct to say that this is the location of the Giant, that this is the location of the Giant sign, which was initially S1, and that the proposed beer and wine sign
Yes, you're
is now indicated as S1 on the exhibit that they have?
That's correct.
And if we could turn to page 5 of that brand book, can you tell me what this page depicts?
This shows the proposed and existing images, and the layout of beer and wine would be as such drawn in this document here.
And would it be correct if I said that the structure where the beer and wine sign is affixed is a metal protrusion or awning from the building with a composite face?
That's correct.
And where the beer and wine sign is located in this page here, do you know if you were to go through the doors below, do you know what is directly inside the store?
That would be the reception area to where some of the products are sold.
Keep your voice up, please.
And when you say some of the products, are you referring to beer and wine sales?
Yes.
Okay. And does Giant have you worked on other Giant applications before?
Yes.
Okay. Does Giant have any particular scheme they have when they affix signs to the building?
It's typical for their brand standards to have a main letter set that reads Giant, a beer and wine letter set, and a pharmacy letter set. And typically the stores also have a Giant Direct cabinet for their services for direct.
Okay. And when they place those signs, do they place them? Would it be correct to say that they place those signs near or at the entrance where those particular features are located?
That's correct.
And if we could turn to the next page, I believe it is S1 details, as it's called. Can you describe just a little bit about the features of the sign?
Sure. So this is a standard channel letter set. It's 5-inch in depth. So the letters would be 5 inches deep. They're made out of aluminum 040. The aluminum 040 is the gauge of the metal. That's the return to the letters. Has a traditional plastic face with a plastic trim cap that would hold that face onto the can. And there's LEDs that light inside the letter, and that side detail shows that drawing along with the wall connection.
I'd like to show you what I've marked, I believe, as Exhibit 7, A7. It's E in the packet that I just handed up. And again, would it be correct to say, Mr. Cliff, that this blue indication here is with the location of the Giant within the shopping center?
That's correct.
Okay. And would you agree with me if I said that this picture depicts the surrounding stores within the shopping center as well as the surrounding neighborhood?
That's correct.
And if we could turn to Exhibit F, I believe it's marked as A8. And I'll represent that these photographs were taken by me. Do you recognize what's being shown in these photographs, Mr. Cliff?
Yes.
Okay, can you explain a little bit about what's being depicted here?
So this is the similar photograph that was used for the before and after of the proposed sign, and that's the canopy is where we are seeking to install this signage.
Okay, and would you agree that the top photograph shows the entranceway where the beer and wines, seated below where the beer and wine sign is being proposed?
That's correct.
Okay, and would you agree that the bottom picture shows that same area but from further out in the parking lot?
That's correct.
Have you been to the site yourself?
I have.
Okay. Can you describe a little bit about the visibility with regard to the entranceway?
So the other tenants, Home Goods, the building of Home Goods jets out further than the giant shopping center. So as you're coming from that side of the area, it's hard to see Giant's facade until you're actually up on it. And the signage would propose a greater detail showing traffic how to safely navigate to that said entrance.
Okay, and if we could turn, I'll turn to the second page. Would you agree that this is that same entranceway that where the beer and wine signs proposed from further out in the parking lot?
That's correct.
Okay, and that was, I'm sorry, the top photograph. And the bottom photograph, would you agree that that photograph shows that same entranceway as well as the full facade of the Giant from the access road at the far end of the parking lot?
Correct.
Ms. Young, I'm sorry, could you make sure that those pictures are all, perfect, thanks.
In the center there.
I think it was cut off the last.
Oh, my apologies. And again, would you agree if I was to represent that this is that same access way and the Giant facade from the access road on the opposite end of the parking lot?
Correct.
And would you agree that it's difficult to see the entranceway where we propose to have the beer and wine sign from the far access road in the parking lot?
Yes.
I'm sorry, wouldn't it be difficult to see any entrance from that particular spot?
Yeah, I mean, although the main entranceway has a very large red Giant sign.
Which I can't see from this photo.
Yeah, true. Is it your opinion that the installation of the beer and wine sign would more clearly identify the entranceway?
It would, and it would help navigate those customers seeking those products to that entrance.
And do you have any reason to believe that there is an impact of that the proposed sign would adversely impact public health or public safety?
No.
Okay. And do you believe that the size of the proposed beer and wine sign is the minimum, and the variance seeking the same as the minimum requested relief?
I do.
Okay. And I have nothing further for this witness.
Sir, what do you base that last statement on, that it's the minimum relief?
Well, every inch is a certain amount of footage that you can actually read that font. And at a 24-inch set, you're about 240 feet.
So at 22, you couldn't read it?
I'm not saying that.
Well, you just did.
Well, when you're actually in the back of the parking lot, you're going to be even more than 240 feet. So we really can't exceed more than 24 inches here. due to the height of the awning. So if we were proposing the 24-inch set, it'd be easier for the traffic and the customers to be able to see that when they're further back in the parking lot.
Do you know if the beer and wine section is accessible through the store itself? If I walk in the main entrance, can I get to the beer and wine section?
Sure, yes.
I have a statement to make. So, in your Exhibit G, I know you're stating that the beer and wine sign is to direct customers to the area within the store. In Exhibit G, I see, like it says bakery and seafood on the front facade of one of your stores. So is that kind of conflicting in a manner in terms of where they're going and where to be?
Exhibit G is from another location.
Correct.
So they may have a different layout at that particular store that I'm not aware of.
And, you know, can I ask him some questions to clarify Exhibit G?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if we can turn to Exhibit G in the packet, which I believe is A9. Okay. And so, did you take these photographs?
My team did at the office.
Okay. I'll represent that these were pulled from Google, so
Okay.
I don't know.
That's why I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you, if you were to take a look at the photographs from Google of different Giants, is this scheme with the signs consistent with how Giant brands their stores?
That's correct.
Does that clarify what the photographs in G are for you, sir?
It does, but saying seafood or bakery, that's not in the front of your store, is it? I'm not going into the right entrance to go to the seafood area.
I believe these are different locations. So
Right.
in that store, yeah, I don't know specifically.
So this store, since this is my store, we're gonna do a little travel through the St. David's Giant. The deli's right there. The Starbucks is right there, right inside those doors. And I'm just wondering why beer and wine, as opposed to Starbucks or deli or the bakery there or the salad bar.
Sure. They're getting away from the bakery, the deli, the seafood signage. They've deleted them on all their stores across the board. And the original packet actually had pharmacy and beer and wine along with the main sign, Giant. That was originally proposed, but it was denied because of the excess of signage. So Giant was seeking to just get the approval for beer and wine.
And I actually think they've closed the pharmacy in that unit, so
Maybe
probably
that-
another reason why they didn't need it.
Right. So as far as my knowledge, on behalf of Giant, that they're really trying to get rid of the seafood, the deli, and the bakery signage.
So if the idea of the signage is to help folks find entrances to the store, why not another Giant sign?
Well, that and to promote that they're offering this consumer goods.
And this is not a street-facing sign.
Sure.
Nobody gets to the Giant the way it's configured by accident. Well, maybe they get there by accident, but it's facing away from the main thoroughfare. It's really only facing the parking lot and the poor folks that live in the apartment just beyond the parking lot. So do the people that come to the store need the direction to the beer and wine? Or I'm suggesting they're already familiar with Giant and what's on offer, and they don't need the sign.
Yeah.
That could be an argument.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I go to this store a lot too, and I think the beer and wine section is actually a separate section of the store, and that you can only buy beer and wine at the cash registers at that entrance, so
Right.
that if that's what you want, coming into that entrance makes a lot of sense.
Would you agree that it's a matter of convenience for the customer when trying to find the closer entrance?
Convenience, awareness, safety concerns to get through the parking lot, not park all the way down to the left of the building, I would suppose.
Well, usually you have to because that end's filled up because of home goods. I mean, my experience has been people that want beer and wine know right where they're going. Yeah.
I'm going to shift gears for a second. Can you address the hardship on the displaying of something other than the name, the phone number, or the address as required under 28122C3?
Yes, I mean, I believe that goes to the testimony that he's provided with regard to trying to better direct people. And so the idea is not so much, like you said, you don't end up at that giant by accident. Trying to better direct by naming it beer and wine to that area of the store, because I believe there's two entrances on opposite ends. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes.
I guess, you're asking for a lot. There's at least 3 variances by my count, if I'm doing it correctly. How about the overall square footage? You're proposing a sign that's 21 feet long, I believe, by 2 feet high, 42 square feet. I understand why you're saying letters at 24 inches. Why 21 feet?
The 21 feet just dictates because of the stroke of the letter and how many letters there are. That's the reason the width. The lower in height, the shorter the width would get as well.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by the stroke of the letter?
The thickness.
Is when you say the thickness, is that a particular size requirement of the type of sign that's being installed, or?
With Giants brand standards, they use a specific font, and to get that 24-inch letter, that's what that 21 feet called for.
Is this beer and wine sign in its sizing, do you know if it's consistent with beer and wine signs, the sizing of beer and wine signs at other Giant locations?
I've seen them down to 18.
Say that again, please.
I've seen them down to 18-inch letters.
So was there consideration given to making this particular sign 18-inch letters?
If the board felt that that was the more appropriate direction to propose, I'm sure Giant would take a win for a win.
Yeah, that
But
doesn't work like
didn't you say that the sign actually is really sized to the distance in the parking lot, so that from 240 feet further, you might not be able to read it as well? Is that correct?
That is correct.
So this is a large parking lot, and to have a sign of 24-inch letters seems very reasonable to me. So I would urge you not to shorten it just to get us through here.
Right. I mean, the designers and the people at Giant approved the 24-inch set. They pushed for the 24-inch set. They wanted the 24-inch set.
And do you know if when they were making the decisions for the proposed sign, if they were considering the site distance from different areas?
They do run those analysis anytime they're doing a remodel or new construction. There's a lot of folks involved to accurately decide what kind of signage and the font and the size that they are requesting.
Okay. Anything else?
I have nothing further.
Okay. So your exhibits then will be part of the record without objection?
Yes, I'd like to move to have all exhibits that were presented to be made part of the record. I believe it's A1 through A9.
Thank you. I'll open it up to public comment. Seeing none. I guess we'll take a motion. I would ask that the motion be made in the affirmative, and then we can debate.
Yeah, no. I don't know the exact, or do you want to do it? 'Cause
Well,
you're
no,
better than I am at it.
Well, no, I just want to make sure we get all the proposed.
You're better.
Don't we need the cumulative size as well?
That's part of 3.
I have it as this. I have it as the cumulative size. Gus, do we need to make a determination if it's an awning sign?
Well, it can't be both.
It can't be both,
It
right?
can't be both.
But
So
the
you-
awning sign is part of the cumulative.
It is. There's still a calculation correct. That Sections 122C3, which deals with awnings, pulls in the requirement that it can't exceed a certain formula, which is the 60 square feet.
Right, okay. So we definitely need a cumulative size.
We also need a variance for the content of the awning sign.
Correct, for both
What
As-
it says.
As well as the height of the letters.
Well, there are a number of nonconformities with the proposed sign when you go through C3. The size of the letters, obviously, and the content of what the sign actually says.
Right, okay. Okay, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, just, and I don't know if I'm going to clarify or maybe add some more confusion, but I'm reading 123, section 123 is signs in the PB district, which is what this would qualify under, that the sign 60 square feet requirement is for wall signs, not a cumulative of wall signs and other signs on the site. That's a separate section for a cumulative total signage calculation. Awning signs, the only thing I'm seeing on awning sign for area is the height of the letters at 8 inches. I'm not seeing a specific square footage requirement for awning signs. And I
Yeah,
would agree
actually,
that this is an awning sign and not a wall sign. That would, if I was asked to make a determination, and we spoke earlier about this, that I would consider this an awning sign and not a wall sign, so.
Yeah, actually, what I'm seeing, unless I'm reading old code, now I may have to print a new version. 122C3 reads, awning signs shall be permitted and shall be included in the computation of total permitted sign area. So don't we now have to go back to?
Correct, which is C1, just above that, 2 paragraphs above what you just read is where my reading is of the square footage for the signs.
Total sign area, but not the 60 square feet for the wall signs.
Okay.
Wall signs are separate 60 square feet in this district, but there is a total sign calculation based off of the frontage of the building. So in multi-tenant buildings, we consider whatever that tenage frontage is that they have for their store, that's their frontage. So they'd have to do that calculation to see if the length of the building for their signs. And
So we don't know what that figure is then, do we?
No, I don't have that.
Relief we're asked for.
Yeah, that's true, right.
And it's,
Okay.
and noticed.
Okay.
Do you have that?
And is it frontage in this instance, or is it sort of backage? I mean, the building's facing the wrong way.
frontage on the back of the parking lot.
Okay,
Depends on whether you're facing it or have your back.
yeah. All right, John, you want to tackle it?
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I would propose that the applicant be granted relief from section 280-120C, 122C3 to provide for the sign as presented in the application and exhibits presented you'll fix this. Presented this evening. And actually, that's it, I think. And I can explain that motion to include both the size of the lettering, the content of the sign itself, and such other nonconformities with the requirement of 122C3 as are presented by the application.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Any board discussion?
I'm not going to support the motion. I think this sign is kind of superfluous, and also we were supposed to go for minimum relief, so I would think 18 inches if we were going to specify a sign. This isn't the store, where it's located, the clientele, it just doesn't drive the need, I believe. So I won't be supporting the motion.
Yeah, and I think said another way, John, I don't see the hardship.
Right.
Folks, generally speaking, know what Giant is and the products Giant offers. It is a specific effort to get to the Giant, so you know you're at a Giant. So the notion that perhaps there are other ways of better identifying the existence of that other entrance, because since they built it's a canopy, but awning, call it whatever you will, I mean, that wasn't always there. And now that they've built the canopy out, it's very difficult to see that door to begin with.
Yes.
So, one might also suggest that is a hardship that they created themselves by doing the renovation to include the canopy and obscure the entrance door. So I don't see a showing of hardship here.
Oh.
And for that reason, I'm going to object to my own motion.
I agree
Yeah.
with the sentiments that's been expressed. I don't see any hardship at all.
I see a lot of hardship that the beer and wine use and the restrictions and regulations came after all this renovation and work was done at the store, and it's a whole new area that the store needs to do, and it looks like it's a very popular and attractive use and great for the residents, great for the store, et cetera, and that to make it better for the store and for the residents to know which entrance they need to go to buy this new product, to me makes a lot of good sense. So I would say having them stay with what was planned before this use was coming and known really would be a hardship to the store. And I'd like to personally just say that I think this would be a great relief to them, and also a wonderful relief to those who come there looking for this.
So I agree with you in concept, or in theory, I should say. My concerns on what I've heard tonight are just, quite frankly, I think you're asking for a lot. And, I think the hardship is tough, especially when it sounds like you're just putting in front of us what what Giant would love to see, as opposed to something that fits a little bit more closely within the code in Radnor Township. So I, as well, am going to vote against the motion. All right. Any other comments? No? Zach?
Oh, that's okay. So I also agree with you guys. I'm not currently seeing a hardship with this, just because, like, when I go and I visit a Giant and I see the different signs, I really view it as a sign as to what is somewhere inside the store, such as the bakery, as the seafood, or anything else. I personally don't see the beer and wine sign as really indicating a particular entrance. That's just my take on this. And I don't really view it as a particular hardship at this point. So that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. Let's take a vote then. Sorry, Zach, we're a full board tonight. John? Nay. John?
Nay.
John?
Nay.
Bud?
Yes.
I'm also a nay on it, so sorry, the proposal fails.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will stand in adjournment then until the May meeting. Thank you all.